The cost of dismissal. The white envelope on Harold Langston's mahogany desk seemed almost innocuous, but its contents were a ticking bomb. The Delta Airlines logo stamped on the corner wasn't just branding, it was a symbol of a corporate relationship spanning 33 years and more than $500 million in risk coverage. Harold, the chief risk officer of Sentinel Mutual, had handled disasters, malfunctions, even mid-air collisions. But this was something else entirely. His assistant had placed the envelope in his morning stack, not realizing it held the kind of problem that could end careers and destroy contracts. It was only Tuesday, but Harold hadn't slept since Sunday. The throbbing behind his eyes sharpened as he picked up the phone and barked, "Give me Paul Hendricks at Delta. Clear my afternoon." 3 months earlier, at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, DR, Monique Ellis was sprinting through Terminal B. At 57, she moved with the precision of a lifelong cardiac surgeon, her slim carry-on in one hand, a sleek black medical equipment bag in the other. She had received a frantic message from Boston Medical less than 2 hours earlier. Dr. Kashyap, her colleague, had suffered a medical emergency. The 16-year-old patient scheduled for a rare pediatric valve reconstruction couldn't wait. She reached Gate B-22 as the final boarding call echoed. "This bag contains surgical tools," she explained to the gate agent. His name tag read Tyler. "I'm heading to Boston for an emergency procedure." Tyler barely glanced at her. "Policy's policy, ma'am. Flight's full. You'll have to check one." Monique took a slow breath. She had faced worse. Failing hearts on cold operating tables, political roadblocks as one of the few black female surgeons to head a department, subtle slights at medical conferences. But the passive resistance masked behind bureaucracy was a familiar ache. She appealed. "They're calibrated instruments. Fragile. I'll take it up with the cabin crew." Tyler didn't fight her, but his silence carried judgment. On board, a flight attendant named Rachel met her with a clipped smile. "We're out of overhead space. I can store your roller bag, but the other will have to be gate-checked." Monique tried again. "I'm chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Emory. These tools are custom-fitted for tomorrow's pediatric operation." "Understand," Rachel said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But FAA regulations. We can't block the aisles." "I'll take care of it." When the lead attendant, Tom, arrived, he barely let her speak before declaring, "Ma'am, check the bag or take another flight." Tom had run out. Monique surrendered the bag, whispering, "Please handle it carefully." What she couldn't have known was that the bag was now part of a chain reaction reaching beyond the plane's cargo hold straight into Delta's legal department and into the heart of Sentinel Mutual's risk algorithms. At baggage handling, Raymond Pierce, 15 years into the job, back aching, eyes tired, saw the black bag tumble onto the cart. "This one says medical," he murmured to his colleague. "It says a lot of things," Darnell grunted. "We've got 10 more flights to load." Raymond hesitated. A handwritten tag read, "Critical medical equipment. Fragile. Dr. M. Ellis." He did what he could, placed it carefully on top, away from heavy suitcases. But without the right process flagging it as priority, it was just another bag. Monique retrieved it at Boston Logan late that night. The moment her hand touched the handle, she knew. The weight fell off. Inside the taxi, she opened it. Her worst fear, calibration, shifted. "The tools are back up," said had been Jared. She spent the next 4 hours recalibrating what she could, but without a sterile lab setup, some damage was irreversible. Still, the surgery had to happen. At 5:30 a.m., she stood in or prep at Boston Medical, reviewing every tool. Dr. Clara Bennett, the hospital's head of pediatric surgery and Monique's longtime colleague, arrived with coffee and concern. "They made you check surgical tools?" Clara asked, voice sharp. "They refused to make an exception," said protocol. Clara cursed softly. "You should file a complaint." "I will. But first, I need to fix a child's heart." The surgery on Darius Maynardage, 16, was extended by nearly an hour due to the missing instruments. Monique adapted, her hands sure, her mind locked into every stitch and valve alignment. When she finally removed her gloves, she was spent but successful. Darius lived. Back in Atlanta, Cameron Walsh, Delta's VP of Operations Safety, was reviewing monthly incident reports when Diana Liu from Customer Experience dropped a complaint on his desk. Doctor, black female, Flight 1847, Boston, claims medical equipment was damaged after staff refused to let her carry it on. He barely glanced upon Diana added, "She's chief of surgery at Emory. Her patient was a minor, and she's alleging discriminatory treatment. We got video. It's not great." Cameron read the summary. The facts aligned with protocol breaches. Worse, video showed a white male photographer allowed to store his gear in the first-class closet, while Monique was refused. The pit formed and Cameron's stomach deepened. "What's legal saying?" he asked. "They don't know yet," Diana said. "I brought this to you first because it's more than a complaint." Cameron nodded. "We need an internal review. Crew interviews, baggage logs, Gota e Futoga, and notify Sentinel." Diana raised an eyebrow. "They're going to freak. Let them. We're past damage control." Monique filed her official complaint 3 days after the surgery. She didn't ask for headlines, just accountability, compensation for her $18,000 equipment, documentation of protocol changes, and a meeting. When Harold Langston received the claim at Sentinel Mutual, he knew the clock was ticking. Delta had violated the 48-hour notification clause in their contract. Worse, this wasn't their first lapse. 3 other medical professionals, all minorities, have filed similar complaints over the last 5 years. All were quietly settled. Now, Harold was staring at a scenario with racial bias, medical harm, and delayed reporting, all red flags. He phoned Thomas Green, Sentinel's SVP of Client Oversight. "We need to review Delta's compliance. Quietly for now, but thoroughly." Thomas didn't hesitate. "Initiate a soft audit?" "Not soft," Harold said grimly. "Full compliance review. If they've made this a pattern, our exposure is unacceptable." Meanwhile, Monique's world remained centered on patient care. Darius's parents, Martin and Leanne, thanked her tearfully. She said nothing of her battle with the airline, until Leanne mentioned she was an attorney. "Medical malpractice defense," she added. "And I sometimes represent Delta in smaller liability cases." Monique blinked. The irony wasn't lost on her. "You should know," Leanne said gently. "If you pursue this, I won't stand in your way." Not this time. Delta's legal team scrambled. Cameron met with their general counsel, Sarah Fairbanks. Together, they crafted a formal apology and outlined corrective action. Staff involved were placed on review. A new policy was drafted for transporting critical medical gear. Cameron also called Monique personally. She answered the phone with measured calm. "Dr. Ellis," he said, "thank you for speaking with me. I want to acknowledge our failures. We failed you, and more importantly, we endangered a patient." "I appreciate the apology," she said, "but apologies don't recalibrate instruments." "I agree. That's why we're offering compensation. And we'd like to invite you to consult on a new training initiative in how we treat professionals, especially in emergency travel." Monique hesitated, then said, "Send the details." Back at Sentinel Mutual, Harold reviewed Delta's 63-page notification. Their tone was contrite, their reforms convincing. But he'd seen it before. When the formal compliance team arrived at Delta HQ, they were met with open access. Still, the review found systemic issues, inconsistent training, vague protocols, and repeated failure to escalate flagged incidents to insurers. It would take months to implement change, but for the first time in years, Harold saw Delta taking real steps. Monique didn't go public. She didn't need to. The systems were changing because of her. In Boston, Darius returned for his 6-week follow-up. His heart sounded strong, his recovery nearly complete. "Thanks for saving me," he said. Monique smiled. "It wasn't just me. It was every person who listened when it mattered." He didn't know what she meant, but someday he would. And so, a single act of dismiss Solagate agent brushing off a black doctor set in motion a corporate reckoning that reached CEOs, insurers, and boardrooms. Not because someone shouted, but because one woman refused to be ignored.